Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year everybody. I'm so excited that the new year is finally here. I know it's going to be a wonderful year. We have lots of good things coming our way. I just know it. And I know we're going to have a lot of fun together. Lots of tutorials, lots of unboxings, lots of inspiration and happiness. So anyway guys, I really appreciate you being here, whether you're new or whether you've been here before. And by the way, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. But anyway guys, one of my most favorite themes is the celestial theme, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be using the beads from the Magical Mystery Bead Box for the month of December. And if you're not familiar with that box, I'll leave a link down below so you can go check it out. I've always been fascinated by celestial things. I love looking at pictures of the moon. I love looking at pictures of galaxies. I love anything to do with space travel. I've always been obsessed by it ever since I was a little girl. But when I was very, very little, maybe 4 or 5 years old, I don't remember exactly, living in Perth, Western Australia, I remember sneaking out the front door and going outside and looking at the night sky and singing to the stars. Don't ask me why, it's such a silly thing, but I remember doing that. And I don't know who I was singing to. I just remember looking up and singing to the stars. It was so funny. But anyway, guys, I've always been fascinated by those things. And then add to it Van Gogh, who's my favorite artist. And this box just blew me away. I couldn't resist making this necklace set. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Let me turn the camera around and we'll get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get our materials. I've already played around a little bit with these beads, so I kind of know what I'm doing. We're going to be using 2 of these pendants. I think these are so gorgeous. We're going to be using this strand of Heishi beads. We're also going to be using the Stardust mix. And we're going to be using some of the charms from this beautiful enamel chain. I love this color, it's so gorgeous. And that's it for now, so let me put these away. Now for one of the necklaces I want to use some chain, and I came across some of this chain reaction. Let me pull it out and show you. I've already used some of it, and these are just some leftovers. And here's the item number in case you're interested. I don't know if it's still available, but it's a gold chain, as you can see, okay? And it has these rondelles, which I'm going to be removing. I'm not going to be using these rondelles. I'm going to be using the gold segments, and I'm probably going to be attaching some other kind of bead to lengthen the strands. So let me put this off to the side because we'll do this later on. I'm going to be using some seed beads, and these are size 8O, and these are Miyuki's, as you can see, and they're in a gold color. I'm going to be using some of this soft flex beading wire, and wouldn't you know that this is in a yellow color? So this is going to look great with the beads that I'm going to be using today. I'll be using some crimp beads, and these are by Beadalon, and they're in a gold color, and these are size 2, as you can see. And here I have some lobster claw clasps, a couple of crimp bead covers, and some jump rings. They're all in a gold color, as you can see. So let me go ahead and remove some of these Heishi beads. Okay, I have a clip on the end of the strand. As you can see, I've actually removed some of the beads because I'm going to be using this on one of the 3 other necklaces we're going to make today. So I'll put this off to the side. We're going to need some of the charms from this chain, so let me remove some. Now this is very easy to do. If you'll notice, each one of these little charms is attached to a jump ring, a closed jump ring, and then that is attached to another one. Can you guys see that? That's the one that we're going to cut. Okay, let me just show you. So this is what you should have. You should have the charm with a little ring attached to it. Okay? And we're going to need a total of 5 charms. So let me go ahead and cut another 4. So here are my 5 charms, and I'm not going to throw away these little bits, okay? I'm probably going to use these on a different project. Let's go ahead and get the beads we're going to be using from the Stardust mix. We're actually going to be working from this packet here. And let me show you what we're going to use. We're going to be using 12 of these gold rings. And that's exactly how many are in this packet. There are 12 of these. Let me go ahead and put these away now. So here's what we're going to do with these. We're going to put one on either side of the charm. Just like that. And then we'll have one at each end of the Heishi bead segment, okay? Here's my beading wire. I cut myself a piece that's 18 inches long just to make sure I have enough beading wire. But my necklace is going to be a choker style necklace, so it'll be about 14 inches long, okay? Now for you it may be different. You may need something bigger. I always give myself at least 2 inches at each end of the necklace to work with so that I can do the crimping and everything. So if it's 14 inches, that means I'll need a total of 18, and that's what I have right here. If you have a bead stopper, I strongly recommend that you use it. I'm using these clips. Now before we start loading the beads, we have to do a little bit of math. I have about 6 3/4 worth of Heishi beads here, okay? So 6 3/4 divided by 2 is about 3 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to place the middle charm at the halfway point, which is 3 3/8, okay? So now I need to eyeball how I want these spaced out, okay? I'm not going to be too precise because it'll drive me nuts, but it looks like my charms are going to be spaced out at approximately 1.5 inches from each other, okay? And before I load the first one, I'm going to load about 1/2 inch worth of Heishi beads. So let's go ahead and do that. As you can see, I have a clip at this end. I'm simply going to remove the clip from this end of the strand and grab about 1/2 inch worth of Heishi beads and then load them directly onto the beading wire like this, okay? And now we're going to load one of these rings and the charm and then the other ring. So this is what we have so far, okay? And now we're going to load 1.5 inches worth of Heishi beads. And if you want to use your ruler for this, by all means do so, okay? 1.5 inches is about this much, okay? So once again, I'm going to offload from the strand directly onto my beading wire. Let me just make sure I have 1.5 inches worth of Heishi beads. That looks pretty good. And now we'll do the same thing. We'll load one of these rings, one of the charms, and then the other ring. This is what we have so far, okay? And I'm just going to continue to load the beads in the same manner until I get done with the entire strand. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I loaded the Heishi beads, and I think it looks really, really cute. I don't like to count such small beads. I prefer to measure them, but I know some of you prefer counts. So I did take the time to count some of these segments. These 2 segments at the end, which are about 1/2 inch long, have 10 Heishi beads each. And these other longer ones here, which are about 1.5 inches, have about 30 Heishi beads. So now what we're going to do is load these 2 gold rings, one on each end. Let me put the clip back on so I don't lose the beads. And we'll load the other one onto this end. And now we're going to need some seed beads. I'm going to finish the rest of the necklace with seed beads, so I'm just going to load them on until I get the correct length. And the total beaded portion of this choker is going to be 14 inches long, like I said before. The clasp and the jump ring will add another 3/4 of an inch. So by the time I get done, it'll be about 15 inches long. So I'm just going to continue to load these beads, and I'll speed up the film to save time. Okay, I finished loading the seed beads, as you can see, and I did measure it. It's about 14.5 inches long, so by the time I add the clasp and everything, it'll be plenty long for myself. Now, like I said before, it may be different for you. You may need something that's a little bit longer, and if you're giving it away or selling it, you could always attach an extended chain. So now we're going to go ahead and attach the clasp. We're going to need 2 crimp beads. Here's my clasp. We need 2 jump rings and 2 crimp bead covers. So the first thing we're going to do is thread on a crimp bead. Take the tail and thread it back through the crimp bead. You want to make sure you shorten that loop. You don't want it too short, but you don't want it too big either, okay? Make sure your beading wire is not crossed inside that crimp bead. I like to use these crimping pliers to crimp my beads. So I'm going to place the crimp bead inside the first divot, which creates the tucker shape, okay? Like this, and give it a squeeze. So this is what you should have. Turn it on its side. And now if you'll notice, there are 3 other notches. I'm going to use the one in the middle, which is the medium-sized notch. Place your crimp bead inside that one. And now I'm going to squeeze it, and it should fold that crimp bead over. And then I always switch to the smaller one, the smaller notch, and squeeze it down a little bit more. And this is what you should have, okay? And now I'm going to go ahead and trim off the excess as close to the crimp bead as I can, like that. And now we'll attach the crimp bead cover. To close my crimp bead covers, I use these crimping pliers, okay? But you can use chain nose pliers if you want to. You just want to make sure you don't dent the metal. And I always go around the whole bead so I can get a nice round shape. Let's go ahead and bring the beads down. And we'll do the same thing on this side. Now before you crimp this side, check to make sure that there are no gaps or no spaces in between your beads. Okay? You don't want it too tight, but you definitely don't want any spaces or gaps. And then go ahead and thread on your crimp bead. Bring it all the way down. Take the tail and thread it back through the crimp bead. Shorten your loop. Try to get the same size loop as you have on the other side. And then definitely check to make sure that the beading wire is not crossed inside that crimp bead. And now let me go ahead and crimp it. Turn it on its side. Fold the crimp bead over. Snip off the excess. Slide on the crimp bead cover and then close it up. Okay. Now that we have it crimped off, we're going to attach the jump rings. So let's go ahead and open this jump ring. Attach it to one side. Close it up. Make sure that it's closed properly, okay? And then on this side, we're going to do the clasp. Just like that. And close it up. Now the reason I'm not using wire guardians or wire guards is because this is such a pretty beading wire. I don't really want to cover it up, and it's pretty strong, so I don't think there's any need for it. So this necklace is done, okay? And don't you just love this cute little choker necklace? Oh my gosh, it's adorable. One thing I wanted to mention about the colors, if you notice we have a lot more blue on this side, and that's fine. I like it like that. I was going to change it initially, but then I thought, no, I'm going to keep it like that because it makes it look more interesting. It just makes it a little bit more abstract looking. So anyway, guys, now that we've got this one done, let's move on to the next one. I've pulled out the beads we're going to be using. We're going to be using these long bicones, these beautiful blue rondelles, tiny rondelles, and these other faceted crystals. I don't know how many beaded components we're going to make, but I pulled out all of them, as you can see. Let me go ahead and put the rest of these away. We're going to need the moon pendant. Here it is. As you can see, I've already attached a jump ring onto it. We're going to need the rest of the Heishi beads. And we're going to need 2 of these spacer beads from the metal mix. I'm cutting myself some wire. Each one is about 2.5 to 3 inches. If you're a beginner, I recommend that you cut 3-inch pieces, okay? And by the way, this is the 22 gauge. You're also going to need 1 piece of the 20 gauge. Now this one does need to be a little bit longer than the others, okay? I would recommend about 4 inches. So let's go ahead and start with the pendant. This is the 20 gauge wire. Grab it just a little bit more than 1/3 of the way down like this. Give it a kink. Reposition your pliers like this. Wrap the tail around the nose of your pliers like this. Flip your pliers around and continue to wrap the tail to the back like this. Remove your pliers. I like to grab the loop with another set of pliers. These are the crimping pliers. I use these because the tip is really skinny and it grabs really well. And now with another set, you're going to grab the tail and do a couple of wraps. Just like that. Snip off the excess. And now tuck in the little end. Now I did count how many Heishi beads there are. We have about 24 here. So I'm going to offload about 12. That's 6. And that's another 6. So I have 12 right there. And now I'm going to load one of these spacer beads, the pendant, the other spacer bead, and now the rest of these Heishi beads. So this is what we have so far, okay? And now we're going to do a loop at this end. So grab the wire right where the Heishi bead is. Make sure everything is nice and snug. Line up your bottom loop. Kink the wire like this. Reposition. Wrap the tail around the nose of your pliers like this. Flip your pliers around and continue to wrap to the back like this. Remove your pliers. Grab the loop with another set of pliers and do a couple of wraps. And now we're going to snip off the excess. Tuck in the little end. And this is what you should have, okay? So that's the pendant. And now with the rest of these beads, we're going to build some beaded components. So you're going to need your 22 gauge wire. And the reason I'm using 22 gauge, guys, is because these beads are really delicate, very tiny, okay? You don't want to use thick wire with small beads. So once again, you're going to grab the wire about 1/3 of the way down, maybe a little bit more. Kink it, reposition, wrap the tail around, flip your pliers around, and continue to wrap that tail towards the back, like this. Remove your pliers, and now we're going to link this onto this loop here, okay? Just like that. grab the loop with your skinny pliers and do a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess, tuck in the little tail, or the little end I should say. So now we're going to build the first beaded component, and we're going to use these little rondelles, one of these crystals, and another little rondelle like this. And now grab the wire right where the bead is, make sure it's nice and snug, line up the bottom loop, kink it, reposition, wrap the tail around, flip your pliers around, and continue to wrap to the back like this. Remove your pliers, grab the loop, and do a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess, tuck the little end in. So that's what we have so far. Now we're going to use one of these bicones. So once again, get your wire, grab it a third of the way down, a little bit more than a third, kink it, reposition, wrap the tail around your pliers like this, flip your pliers around, continue to wrap to the back like this, and before you thread the bead on, you want to link it onto this loop right here like this. Grab the loop with your skinny pliers and do a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess, tuck in the little end, thread on a bead, and now you're going to grab the wire at the top of the bead like this, line up the bottom loop, kink it, reposition, wrap the tail around your pliers, flip your pliers around, continue to wrap to the back, remove your pliers, grab the loop with your skinny pliers and do a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess, tuck in the little end, and this is what we have so far. Okay, so I'm going to continue to build my components until I get a total of 3 of these on each side. Okay, I've already arranged it as you can see, and 3 of these bicones. I'll end with a bicone. Same thing on that side. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll speed up the film and I'll meet you back. Okay, as you can see, I've finished connecting all of the beaded components, and doesn't that look adorable, guys? I love how this looks. Now the other thing that I did, I bent this component down here. I curved it, okay? You don't have to do that, but I just prefer to do it. The other option would be to build 2 separate beaded components with Heishi beads on each one, okay? That's the other option. I just thought this looked really nice this way. As you can see, I've left both of these open, okay, so we can attach the chain. Let me go ahead and get the chain. These are the leftovers from the chain reaction. And initially I was going to remove these beads, but I decided not to because the color coordinates pretty nicely in my opinion. So I'm just going to leave it on there, okay? So here are my two pieces of chain reaction. So now all I have to do is connect it to my necklace. I'm going to go ahead and open this loop up a little bit. Thread the link onto my wire. Slide it into the loop like this. Close the loop a little bit. And now I'm going to grab the loop with my skinny pliers and close it up with a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess. Tuck in the little end. So this side is done. And now let's do this side. And this is what we have so far. Isn't that adorable? I love it. I have two jump rings and a lobster claw clasp. Let's go ahead and open up this jump ring. Now this is the right side, so this is where the clasp is going to be, unless you're giving it to somebody who's left dominant. Close up the jump ring really well. And now let me open up this jump ring and attach it to this side. Let me go ahead and measure it. It looks like it measures 20 inches, including the clasp. And I think this necklace is so adorable. And it looks even cuter with a choker necklace. Let me bring it down so you can see. It's kind of hard to see the whole thing on camera. But there's the top. But there it is, guys, okay? Now the third necklace is going to actually sit in between these two like this. And I'm going to be using some fine chain that I had in my stash in a gold color. I'm going to measure myself a piece that's about 17 inches long. 17 or 18 would be good. You're going to have to figure it out on your own depending on how long your other necklaces are, okay? I want mine to be in the middle between these two. So I'm going to cut myself a length and then I'm going to hold it up to my chest and see if it's the correct length, and I'll be right back. Well, I'm back, and as you can see, I didn't do anything fancy. I just attached the pendant to the chain and attached a clasp, and that's about it, okay? And as you can see, I have two jump rings and a lobster claw clasp. Now for the pendant, I did have to connect it with two jump rings, as you can see. And the jump rings are not connected to any of the links, as you can see. It slides around. But I think it looks really cute. So anyway, here's the full set. Doesn't it look cute? Oh my gosh, I love this. I love the colors. It's so pretty. I know you can't see the whole thing. It's difficult to show you the whole thing, but I think you get the idea. And I like that they're separate. I like to have that flexibility. I don't like to be stuck wearing a multi-layered necklace if I don't feel like it. You can wear one, you can wear two, or all three. It's up to you. I did measure the second necklace here, the chain, and it measured about 17 inches. But the best thing to do before you attach any clasps or do any crimping is to hold the necklaces up to your chest to make sure you have the correct length for each one. So anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and put these on and show you what they look like. I'm definitely going to have a hard time selling this one or giving it away. I love it so much. This is such a great set because, like I said before, you can wear them separately or you can wear them all together. Either way, they look so pretty. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope I've inspired you. Go out and make your own necklaces. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.